everybody, this is Nate. You're watching WASD 20, and today I'm really excited to show off some of the painting I've been doing on my miniatures, and the main purpose is just to show kind of what I've done and hopefully solicit some feedback from you, especially some of you experienced painters out there. No, I'm not going for, showing these and really high quality, extreme detail, but I do take pride in it, and I've really enjoyed painting them so far. It's been really fun, and I can't wait to do a lot more over the next several years, I'm sure. So I welcome your feedback. Without further ado, let's take a look. Alright, so we're going to start by taking a look at this one. This is an older one that my friend and I got at Wizards of the Coast when they had stores back in the 90s. And this one is the old pewter or metal, whatever, so it's a pretty heavy guy. So I started with him. I primed with a white Valspar spray primer, just a plain old spray primer, and then I used this stuff for just a cheap spray paint for a base coat in black. It's not a primer, just a spray paint, and then I worked up from there. I have been using these very inexpensive folk art paints from Hobby Lobby. These are, when I got them on sale, they're about $1 each, so pretty cheap craft paint. Then for brushes, I have been using also some pretty cheap brushes. These were purchased at Hobby Lobby. I got a set of like 6 of them for $7 or $8, and yeah, nothing fancy. I would like to get some better brushes. After base coating this guy in black, I then kind of worked up and mixed this sterling silver paint here with black. And the way that I generally painted all of these miniatures is I tried to shoot for 3 or 4 different colors, shades, working my way from darker up to lighter. And of course, the method that I've seen in many YouTube videos, and it's been very helpful, is that when you start, you base coat all over the place. You make sure that good dark color gets everywhere, and then you work your way up to a slightly lighter color with a little more of the metallic, in this case the sterling silver, on most surfaces, but leaving that darker version in the crevices, and then eventually getting lighter and just doing highlights in the places where the light would naturally hit. And then I even took, mixed in some white with the sterling silver to get some really light highlights in certain places. You can see right there. And I do kind of wish this were blended a little bit better. There are spots where I can see, this right here is a little bit darker than this right here. So there's just little things like that I notice. There's certainly a lot of room for me to improve in this technique. But overall, I think it achieved a pretty good look. And then I, of course, did a little bit of gold in certain areas of the miniature, the knees, the hilt of the sword, the crest of his helmet, a little bit gold. And then I also did some brown, which was really tricky, getting really detailed strap right there, and some straps on the back of his legs, his thighs there, and on his back right here, which you can see I kind of messed up there. But yeah, overall this is my first one. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. The chainmail is really cool because on those heavily textured surfaces you can really get a lot of shadow in the, down lower that doesn't get touched when you're brushing over it with the highlights with the lighter color. So that can achieve a pretty neat look. You notice I have my miniature mounted on just a paint cap. This is an old one that dried out, and I use poster putty. I saw some videos of folks using hot glue. That didn't work so well for me. I tried it actually and one of them fell off, so I decided to go for the poster putty. I use blue tack, which I'm a teacher, and I have found that the white stuff in general, most poster putty does not work so well, but blue poster putty, blue tack, for some reason much more sticky, it works really well. The next one I painted was a miniature for my wife's character in our Pathfinder game that I'm running, Rise of the Rune Lords. This is her rogue, and this one is a Reaper Bones miniature that I ordered from their website. And so this is plastic. It is ready to paint. I did still base coat it in black. I think I primed it in white too. Supposedly you don't need to prime these, but I chose to anyway. And yeah, this one I was going to do all black cloak, everything, because that's kind of the way my wife described her character. But when it came down to it, she wanted a little color, so we did a purple cloak. And I actually don't even have a purple, so I had to totally mix. I need to get more colors. I've got about 10 right now, and I don't have a purple. But I started with a really dark purple. One of the things that I learned after painting this figurine and this guy too, is that you're supposed to start inside out. So starting on the inside with this guy would have meant starting his face first, which I'm not really pleased with the way his face turned out. I ended up painting his face last. And yeah, tricky. I need to figure something out for his face. But this one as well, I didn't start inside out. I started with her cloak first. So probably should have started with her, you know, her stomach, chest, arms first, and face certainly. But anyway, not really pleased with the way the faces are turning out on these so far. I got some work to do on that and figuring stuff out. But overall, I like the way this turned out. This was not a super hard one. The cloak, you know, started with almost blackish purple, just really dark, and then again working my way up, probably about 3 or 4 coats, and getting lighter and lighter until, you know, you can see, by the way, a little chip right there, right there, and I've got to do something about that. I have since bought this flat finish that I'm hoping is good for that. If you have any input on that, let me know. I know that I've heard people talk about testers having the best matte finish, but that's a little harder to find. I just got this at Lowe's. And yeah. So after doing the cloak on this one, I then went and did the black. And black is a tricky color to do, as I've seen in many videos. You start with actual black and then you kind of work your way up to a gray. And you got to be careful not to get it too gray, or else it'll actually look gray. But I think I managed to make it look still black with the gray highlights just on the edges and the places where the light hits. And I actually did some gunmetal on her knees here to make it look armored. The bow did a couple different shades of brown, and some metal on the bow as well. Yeah, you know, trying to with the brown start with darker and then get the highlights. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. The red, it was hard for me to get highlights without it looking too pink. I think I probably should have started with a darker red there, but overall I like this and the way it turned out. I'm pretty happy with the cloak, especially. That's kind of the main feature. The head, I'm not a big fan of on the head on this model, just the way it's molded, and I'm not sure if it got messed up in manufacturing or if that's the way it's designed, but it's kind of like 2 holes right there, 2 divots. Not too pleased with that, but maybe I could have fixed it, but I didn't. So yeah, that's that. The base, I'm not really going to plan to base any of these. I did do brown and kind of grayish on top of that, give it kind of a dirty rock look. So yeah, that's that one. Alright, the next one that I did was this Lizardfolk warrior. This one is one of the ones that, the old metal ones that got back in the day and found recently, unpainted. So I spray primed him in white, then a black coat on top of that, and then write him with a pretty dark green. I actually had to lighten it up because it was too dark the first time, and I still think this guy could be a little brighter. Could have gone a little lighter with my base coat and everything else. But I really like the way this one turned out, and part of the reason, I kind of mentioned it with the knight, is that he's very heavily textured with the scales, and that allows for some of the good shadow in between with that base color to remain even after I run my brush over with the regular body color or the highlights. There's still some room for improvement here. Not totally pleased with kind of the blending of the highlights. I probably did about 5 coats, maybe 4 coats actually, of the green. And yeah, turned out pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with it. The mouth, I mixed kind of a pinkish, a dark pink, and then it was surprisingly easy just to go in there and barely just brush the teeth with white. And because of the texture, because this miniature is so well constructed, it just was very easy just to go in there, and only the teeth then got white. The eyes were a challenge. This eye, if I can get a good angle on it, get focus. I'm really pleased with how this one came out. This eye a little less so. Got a little too much paint in there, so I should probably go in there with green and retouch it. The sword I'm also not too happy with. Need to figure out, I don't know. I think I need to go, not too pleased with the metallics. Maybe I need to get some new metallic paints, but not too pleased with how that's looking, and maybe I'll just go in with the regular old gray. Still want kind of a dull look for it. The shield as well I'm not too pleased with. I think I started with too dark of a brown, and then the yellow on top is too much contrast, and I should. Alright, I ran out of battery there on my camera, so I'm back. But for the base on this guy, I just painted it black, and I haven't actually gone over it yet, but it looks fine. I might just leave it, or I might go in with gray or black, base coat it with some gray highlights. We'll see. Yeah, so overall, I really like the way it looks, but there's still a little bit of work to be done. Oh, I should also mention, one of the reasons it came out a little darker than I thought is because I used my first shade. This is a Citadel. They used to call these washes. Now I think they just make shades, but pretty much the same thing. And so this is a Coelia green shade, and it's kind of a greenish color, obviously. I've got a couple more that I've ordered from the local game shop. They didn't have in stock, a brown and a black as well. Love to get lots of them, but I don't really want to spend, $4 a piece on tons of them. So the last one that I'm going to show off here is my character that I made for the campaign that I'm playing in. So this is my cleric of Gosray in Pathfinder. So the martial weapon is the trident, and this kind of looked like a trident, and yeah, he fit the bill for me because my guy was kind of a reclusive hippie with a beard, and he had a trident. So this is the closest I could find. If you look at my previous video, which I'll put a link to, where I first got the miniatures, this by the way is a Reaper. It is metal. But if you look at that one, you remember he had a dragon, a small little dragon on his shoulder. This is Trothesvar the wizard, and I clipped that off with some tools, and it looks okay. There's still a little bit of evidence of it there and on the quiver, but kind of looks like the folds of his cloak a little bit. So I'm pretty pleased with how that came off. And then his staff I tried to make look more like a trident. I think I am going to go in and make this metallic as well as this. That might help give it that look a little better. But this guy, super detailed. I used the Coelia green shade as well on his cloak for this, and was going for kind of a bluish green. So then I went, and after I had done 3 or 4 layers on his cloak, did the shade and the wash, and then I also afterwards dry brushed parts of his cloak with kind of a lightish blue to retain some of the blue as well, because it looked a little bit too forest green after that. But there's a lot of detail here. Kind of started with a dark gray, moved up to a lighter gray there. The yellow I'm not pleased with. I would like to get it more of an orangish yellow, a little bit more bold rather than so pale. What else here? Yeah, the detail went dark brown there, then highlights on the brown. I just think there's room for improvement there, but I'm pretty pleased with the highlights there. the way it turned out. There is the scrolls. I'm pretty pleased with the way the scrolls turned out. Kind of did a yellowish brownish base, and then worked my way up to a whitish yellow. Kind of give it an aged parchment look. Some of the stuff on his belt here, again, tons of detail. I'm not too pleased with how that turned out, and I'm probably going to redo some of that. So yeah, look for that coming soon. In terms of face, the face this is probably the one I'm most pleased with. Not perfect by any means, but yeah, you can actually see kind of the distinction between skin color and beard. His lips are a tiny bit pinkish. Yeah, so pretty happy with how his face came out. Not perfect by any means. His eyes a little too white, and you can see some of the white got in places where it maybe shouldn't have, but that's hard to see. I'm not going to be using these miniatures again for showing or anything like that, just for gaming. So I'm not too concerned about being super detailed and trying not to be too anal about it, but I do want to improve. I do want to get better. I still need to figure out what I'm going to do with this, what color. Might just leave them black, but I do need to add some highlights, and also then for this right here. Yeah, I also I've kind of flattened his cowl on accident when I was clipping off the dragon. I had him down on my workbench. I was really working on it, and oops, kind of flattened his hood a little bit. So that's too bad, but it's not real noticeable. Yeah, still pretty happy with it overall. Might do a little more work on it, but yeah. So other than that, those are the ones that I've painted so far. I will show just briefly the ones that I'm planning to still paint. Got these from Reaper as well. This one is one of the metal ones. This is my Paladin Pathfinder Society, and I'm thinking about making him the comic style, which I've seen a little bit of, and it looks interesting. Some people don't like the look of it. It's very high contrast, and you kind of retain a lot of the dark outline. It looks a little more cartoony, a little more comic, as the name implies. So I might try that just as an interesting challenge to try something new. Then on this guy, this is a Reaper Bones, and I just saw him for $250. Lem, the iconic bard. He's a halfling. So I just picked him up. I've done a little dusting on both of these, little base coat. So yeah, look for some more of those coming soon. But thanks again for joining me. And if you have any comments, if you're an experienced painter, I would especially love to get some of your feedback on how I can improve my technique. And I know it's kind of hard when I haven't shown actually myself painting them, but if there's some easy things I could do that don't cost too much and don't take too much more time that you'd recommend, or some room for improvement here and there, I welcome your feedback. Again, I'm not going for really perfection and showing these off, but yeah, I still do want to improve. It doesn't take too much more time and too much more money. So again, thanks for joining me. Everybody take care.